Hey there, I'm Adrienne, your go-to guide on this empowering journey to self-love and authenticity. I've transformed my own struggles into strengths, and now I help others navigate their path to their inner knowing and create personal fulfillment. On this show, we're not shying away from tough conversations. We're diving headfirst into topics like self-worth, overcoming limiting beliefs, challenging societal norms, and creating a life that's not just successful, but truly fulfilling. We're all about blending heartfelt, soul-searching chats with practical, actionable strategies. Think of this podcast as your trusty compass on the path to your most authentic life, mixed with a cozy fireside chat with a dear friend. Ready to uncover your true self and lead a life that's in sync with your deepest desires? You're in the right place, friend. Welcome to the Live Your Truth, Love Your Life podcast. Hey there, book lovers and life enthusiasts. It's time to turn a page in our journey of self-discovery and growth. Introducing the Live Your Truth, Love Your Life book club, a gathering space for those who find wisdom in words and power in pages. Every month, we'll explore books that ignite our passions, challenge our perspectives, and inspire action towards living our best lives. Starting December 1st, we're diving into a world where personal development isn't just read about, it's actively practiced and lived. If you're tired of reading books that inspire you in the moment, only to find that the lessons fade away, this book club is your solution. We won't just be reading, we'll be connecting, sharing, and growing together. With discussions, exclusive insights, and interactive sessions, this is more than just a book club. Say goodbye to the disconnect between knowledge and action. Are you ready to live your truth and love your life like never before? Visit www.adriancrowley.com/book club to learn more and get on the waitlist. Let's make our personal growth journey a collective, supportive, and transformative experience. See you there. Hey there, friends. Adrienne here. Welcome back to another episode of Live Your Truth, Love Your Life. So I have a question for you to kick things off today. Have you ever felt like you needed permission to take a break, to say no, or to step outside your comfort zone? It turns out you're not alone if you said yes. This is where the concept of permission slips comes into play, a powerful idea brought into the limelight by Brené Brown, the renowned researcher and storyteller. Brené's work, particularly her insights into vulnerability and courage, has inspired millions, myself included. And among her many impactful ideas, the concept of permission slips stands out as a simple yet profound tool that can bring significant changes to our lives. At first glance, the idea of an adult needing a permission slip might seem a bit odd. Aren't permission slips just for kids? In reality, though, how often have we, as adults, stopped ourselves from doing something because we didn't feel it was allowed or acceptable? Whether it's in our personal lives, where we might hold back from pursuing a long-held passion, or in our professional lives where we hesitate to voice an unconventional idea or maybe take a well-deserved break, the need for self-permission is a common thread. Today, we're going to get into the essence of permission slips for adults. We'll explore why they're not just useful but necessary in our journey towards self-acceptance and authenticity. The aim here is not just to understand what permission slips are, but more importantly, to learn how to effectively implement them in our everyday lives. By granting ourselves the permission to be vulnerable, to fail, to take risks, or simply be ourselves, we open the door to a more authentic, fulfilling life. So let's embark on this journey together and discover how something as simple as a permission slip can become a transformative tool in our personal growth and happiness. So in the hustle and bustle of life, it's easy to get lost in the myriad of responsibilities, expectations, and societal norms that dictate our actions. But have you ever paused to consider the concept of a permission slip in your life as an adult? The concept of permission slips in adult life is intriguing as it is vital. So a permission slip in this context is essentially a metaphorical note you write to yourself, granting permission to engage in activities, emotions, or thoughts that you might typically suppress or shy away from. It's like giving yourself a green light to step outside your comfort zone, to embrace vulnerability, or to engage in self-care. For instance, writing a permission slip to allow yourself to take a mental health day off work or to express a controversial yet constructive opinion in a meeting are acts that empower and validate your needs and values. The psychological basis of this concept is deeply rooted in self acceptance and self compassion. In our lives, many of us are held back by our inner critic. It's that voice that tells us we're not good enough, that we shouldn't take risks, or that we must adhere to certain standards, usually set by somebody else. Permission slips challenge this narrative. They're a proactive step towards acknowledging and accepting our own needs, desires, and worth. Brené Brown, in her work on vulnerability and courage, highlights how important it is to recognize our own humanity and to give ourselves space to be imperfect. She teaches that by writing ourselves permission slips, we're acknowledging our right to experience life fully without the shackles of self judgment and unrealistic expectations. It's a practice that fosters a kinder, more compassionate relationship with ourselves. This tool is about more than just doing something you've hesitated to do. It's about changing the way you talk to and treat yourself. It's about recognizing that you are a person worthy of the same kindness, patience, and understanding that you offer to others. In a world where we're often our harshest critics, permission slips act as a reminder that we too deserve to explore, make mistakes, and pursue our happiness. By integrating this practice into our lives, we can start to shift our mindset. That's really what this is about. It's all about shifting our mindset. Instead of waiting for external validation or permission, we begin to understand that the only validation that truly matters is the one that comes from within. Writing a permission slip for yourself is a reminder to take control of your narrative and live authentically. In essence, permission slips are a tangible representation of self-compassion and acceptance. They're a step towards embracing our true selves with all of our strengths and all of our weaknesses. Keep in mind that the act of writing a permission slip is an act of courage, a declaration that we are ready to live life on our own terms. Have you ever stopped to think about why, as adults, we often struggle to allow ourselves the freedom to feel, act, or simply be in ways that resonate with our true selves? This internal battle is more common than you think, and it's deeply rooted in the complex web of societal expectations and self-imposed limitations that shape our adult lives. Your essential or your true self is often in conflict with your cultured self, the one that feels the need to follow the rules. We're constantly navigating a world that's filled with rules and norms, dictating how we should behave and what we should aspire to, and even how we should feel. These external pressures can lead us to disconnect from our authentic selves. This is part of why I'm always reminding myself and others, really even through this podcast, to talk to yourself like you would someone you love. We need self-compassion, a quality that's often lost in our pursuit to meet external standards. The struggle here lies in the conditioning we've received from an early age, the idea that there are certain acceptable ways to navigate life. Be it in professional scenarios where showing vulnerability might be perceived as a weakness, or in personal settings where expressing true desires might go against the grain. We constantly find ourselves conforming to these invisible guidelines. And the result? We often end up living a life that's more about shoulds and musts rather than about our genuine wants and needs. So, this is where the magic of permission slips comes into play. These slips are more than just notes. They're symbolic keys to unlocking the chains of the societal and self-imposed expectations. They serve as a gentle reminder that it's okay to step out of the proverbial box, to embrace our vulnerabilities, and to honor our authentic emotions and desires. Brené Brown's teachings on vulnerability and shame resilience emphasize the transformative power of being true to yourself. She encourages embracing imperfections and daring greatly, as seen in her quote, "What we know matters, but who we are matters more." This sentiment is at the heart of why permission slips are so crucial. They're not just about doing something different, they're about being true to who we are at our core. As adults, granting ourselves permission can be revolutionary. It can mean allowing yourself to pursue a long forgotten passion, to say no to an unfulfilling obligation, or to simply take a day off for mental health. God forbid we take time for ourselves, right? These slips can help us overcome the barriers of judgment, fear of failure, and the daunting weight of expectations. Really, though, permission slips can be a powerful tool in redefining success and happiness on our own terms. They remind us that our worth is not tied to societal benchmarks, but is inherent in our very being. As Brené Brown wisely puts it, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. Permission slips help us write our own stories, ones where we're the protagonists, living authentically and wholeheartedly. This is more than just breaking free from external constraints. Really, again, it is about self-discovery and acceptance. By understanding and implementing the practice of permission slips, we open ourselves up to a life where our choices are reflective of our true selves. So, we're going to get into this a little bit more, but as we continue, just keep in mind that these slips are not just notes that we write to ourselves. They're declarations of a commitment to living a life that's genuinely ours. So I don't know about you, but I think for a lot of us, there are several areas where we often find ourselves hesitating, holding back, or feel stuck. It's not because we lack the ability or the desire, but often it's because we haven't given ourselves permission to fully engage in these aspects of our lives. So there are some common areas where we may need to give ourselves some permission, and we're going to talk about how doing that can lead to more authenticity and more fulfillment. So first up, our career aspirations and changes. So in our professional lives, we sometimes encounter crossroads, moments where we contemplate a career change, a bold new project, or even starting our own business. However, the fear of failure, financial insecurity, or the simple comfort of the status quo can hold us back. Imagine someone stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill them because they haven't given themselves permission to pursue their passion. The moment they write that permission slip, I give myself permission to follow my career dreams, is the moment they open the door to possibilities, growth, and ultimately a more satisfying professional life. This one was a big one for me. I was in a job for 12 years that I knew wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And it was being a little bit afraid of change, being afraid of going from a really secure job, both financially and knowing that that position is going to exist, to jumping into the deep end, running my own business. That wasn't an easy thing to do, but it was something that I deeply desired to do. So I gave myself permission to take the risk, permission to fail if it doesn't work out. I thought to myself, what's the worst thing that happens if I start a business and I don't make any money? I can't support myself. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm just going to go get another job. But sometimes you just got to really think those things through. What do I want to do? Why am I afraid to do it? And what's the worst thing that's going to happen if it does? And once you kind of get clear on those things, writing that permission slip becomes a bit easier. The second area is personal relationships. So, granting ourselves permission in this area of life can be transformative. Maybe it's giving yourself permission to leave an unhealthy relationship, to express love and vulnerability, or to set and maintain healthy boundaries. Sometimes we stay in unsatisfying or even harmful relationships because we haven't permitted ourselves to seek what we truly deserve. By acknowledging and acting on our needs and worth, we pave the way for healthier, more meaningful connections. In coaching, I've heard people talk about being in relationship with somebody where they're not truly happy, they're not truly satisfied, their needs aren't being met, they don't feel respected, but they worry that something else isn't out there that's going to be more fulfilling or a better match. So they stay in the situation they know and stay comfortable because at least they have that. But the people that you spend the most time with really impact every area of your life. So if you are miserable in a relationship or a partnership with somebody, You really have to evaluate that and give yourself permission to either say what you need or make the decision to leave if that's what's best. The third area, self-care practices. This is an area where permission slips are super important, but people often overlook it. A lot of people feel guilty or selfish for dedicating time to themselves. But remember, self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Whether it's taking time for a hobby, resting when you need it, or simply saying no to overcommitments, giving ourselves permission for self-care is so important to our well-being. Think of a scenario where someone is burned out but struggles to take a break. Maybe that's you. A permission slip here could be, I allow myself to rest. It's a step towards better health and happiness. The area of personal growth and development. By giving yourself a permission slip here, you're giving yourself permission to explore, to make mistakes, and to step out of your comfort zone. Whether it's learning a new skill, traveling alone, or confronting a long-held fear, these endeavors require us to permit ourselves to grow. The reluctance to try new things often stems from a fear of the unknown or not being good enough. Here, permission slips act as a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. So your permission slip might be, I give myself permission to take a weekend solo trip. That's an experience from which you will grow. You'll be on your own. You'll only be considering what you want to do, what you want to eat, how you want to spend your time. You'll be prioritizing yourself. So however that might look for you, maybe it's going back to school. Maybe you're at middle age and you're like, I'm too old to get that degree. I'm too old to pursue this other career. The reality is we're never too old because we're just going to get older. So if we don't pursue it now, then we're going to find ourselves older and still longing for that same thing. Whereas if we started pursuing it now, 10 years from now, we're going to look back and be glad that even though it was a little uncomfortable and we felt a little bit old for like starting this new thing, we'll be grateful that we did it. So in each of these areas, the lack of self-permission often leads to stagnation, unhappiness, unfulfillment. It's like standing at the edge of the pool, wanting to dive in, but just kind of like looking down and never allowing yourself to jump. By writing ourselves permission slips, we not only jump into these experiences, but also learn to swim in them, embracing all the challenges and joys that they bring. Granting ourselves permission, specifically in these 4 areas that we just talked about, enables us to live more authentically. It allows us to align our actions with our true desires and values, leading to a more richer and more satisfying experience of life. As we learn to write these permission slips, we empower ourselves to take charge of our own happiness and our destiny, one brave decision at a time. So, how exactly do we begin to incorporate permission slips into our daily routine? It's one thing to understand their importance, to chat about them, but it's another thing to put them into practice effectively. So, we're going to walk through some practical steps to create and use permission slips, integrating them into our daily lives. Step 1, identify the need for permission. The first step is just self-reflection. It's crucial to take a moment, to take some time and identify the areas in your life where you're holding back because you haven't given yourself permission. This could be anything from pursuing a new career path to expressing your true feelings in a relationship. A solid guiding question here is, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of judgment, failure, or disappointment? What would I do if I wasn't afraid of judgment, failure, or disappointment? See what comes up for you. Maybe meditate on it or journal about it. The answers to this question are likely areas where you need to write yourself a permission slip. Step 2 is crafting your permission slip. So now it's time to put pen to paper. Quite literally, put pen to paper. Write down your permission slip. It can be as simple as, I give myself permission to fail and learn from it. Or as specific as the example I already mentioned, I give myself permission to take a weekend off for a solo trip. The key is to write it in a positive tone and in the present tense, making it a powerful affirmation of your intention. When I'm writing them down, I like to use a bright, colorful Post-it note, and I will stick it to the bottom of my computer screen if it's during the work week because I'll be in front of my computer a lot, so I'll see it. Or sometimes I'll stick it to my bathroom mirror. Every time I go in there, I'll see it. Another thing I'll do is I will stick it to the inside of my planner that I carry with me everywhere. This is another way that I would see it often. So I encourage you, the brighter the better. Just write it down, put it somewhere that you'll see it, and treat it like it's an affirmation. Step 3 is integrating permission slips into daily routines. This can be done through journaling, where you regularly write and reflect on your permission slips, reinforcing them in your mind. Meditation can also be a potent tool. Visualize yourself living out the permission slip you've granted yourself, feeling the emotions and embracing the experience. Daily affirmations, they're another effective method. Start your day by affirming your permission slips out loud. This will set a positive tone for the day and keep your intention front of mind. Step 4 is embrace the change. Granting yourself permission is an ongoing process. It's about consistently reminding yourself that it's okay to live authentically. Over time, you'll start to notice subtle shifts in your thoughts, in your behaviors. You'll find yourself more willing to take risks, more open to new experiences, and more aligned with your true self. So recently, when I was coaching someone, she was talking about the holidays with her family and some frustration around plans being moved when she was the host, and no one had asked her about changing these plans. So we're talking, and as she was working through this, she kept making disclaimers that she knew she shouldn't be bothered by something so small, or that she shouldn't feel frustration about the situation. This coaching situation was an opportunity for her to give herself permission to be the most unevolved, petty, frustrated person that she needed to be in that moment. In order to pinpoint the blocks of what's holding you back, of what's keeping you stuck, it's important to lean in to what you're feeling and not censor it. Another client I was working with recently was struggling with setting boundaries in personal relationships. He was overextended and saying yes when he wanted to say no, which I think is something that we can all relate to, especially during holiday season. His permission slip read, "I allow myself to say no without feeling guilty." We talked through the thing that was keeping him stuck and why he kept saying yes when he wanted to say no. And his thing was that once he said no, he'd feel guilty about it. He should help this person because of X, Y, and Z. He should do this because he believes this, or this is expected of him, whatever it might have been. But he said that guilt just kind of weighs on him after. So it's almost easier just to say yes to the thing than to feel guilty afterwards. So I asked him, like, who would you be without that guilt? He's like, well, I would feel free. I could respond how I want to. I would feel less obligation. I'd have more time for myself, for my family. Okay, then you need to give yourself permission to say no without feeling guilty. This is kind of where we ended up. So he writes out the permission slip to serve as his reminder that he can say no, and he doesn't have to feel bad about doing so. The thing is, granting ourselves permission can sometimes feel like an uphill battle. Again, we might feel guilt, we might be afraid of judgment, or maybe we have deeply ingrained beliefs that prioritize others' needs over our own. Many of us grapple with the misconception that prioritizing our desires or needs is selfish or somehow indulgent. And these challenges can make the practice of writing and honoring permission slips feel impossible. The first step in overcoming these hurdles is recognizing that these feelings are normal. It's okay to feel apprehensive about breaking a long held pattern. The key is to start small. Give yourself permission for something minor and gradually work your way up. This could be as simple as allowing yourself an extra hour of sleep on your day off, or saying no to an additional commitment in a low risk situation. Remember, self compassion is at the core of this practice. It's about acknowledging your worth and understanding that caring for yourself is not just beneficial but necessary. If you find it hard to give yourself permission, try to view your situation from the perspective of a friend. What would you advise them to do in your situation? This shift in viewpoint can often make it easier to extend the same kindness and understanding to yourself. Once you're able to verbalize or write down that you know how you would advise a friend, and it's very generous in spirit, it's very kind and understanding, it becomes a little bit easier to give that to yourself. So I know we've been all over the map today. We've explored the concept of permission slips and how they can significantly impact our lives, from enhancing our career paths to enriching personal relationships and fostering self-care. Permission slips are a practice of self-compassion and authenticity. By acknowledging and facing the common challenges and granting ourselves permission, we can begin to dismantle the barriers that prevent us from living fully. The journey of incorporating permission slips into our lives is a transformative one. Truly, it is. And it can lead to personal growth and a deeper understanding of ourselves. As we wrap things up, I encourage you to take this idea and make it your own. Start by writing your first permission slip today. It could be the first step towards a more fulfilling, authentic life. By following these steps and regularly practicing self permission, you're not just changing habits, you're changing your mindset. And that's where the true transformation begins. Remember, the journey towards self compassion begins with a simple act of permission from you to you. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you got something from this chat. If you did, please feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't already, please leave a review. It really helps the show to get in front of more people when you subscribe and leave a review. I appreciate all of your support. Until next time, live your truth, love your life. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Thanks so much for joining me on the Live Your Truth, Love Your Life podcast. To get even more out of today's conversation, don't forget to swing by the show notes and download your freebie. Want to keep the conversation going? I'd love to hear what spoke to you most today. Head on over to my Instagram at Live Your Truth, Love Your Life and drop me a comment. I'm always excited to connect and learn more about you. Remember, the journey towards living your truth and loving your life is a rewarding one. New episodes are dropping each Monday and Thursday, and I can't wait for next time. Until then, have a fantastic week.